Hello, welcome to the FITT Life. Today we're tackling one of the most important pillars of performance nutrition. Whether you're an elite athlete or just trying to fuel your body better, the way we eat impacts everything from energy levels to recovery. Introducing Helen Conway. Helen is our in-house nutritionist at FITT Meals, helping clients curate their nutrition for performance, longevity, and overall well-being. She's here to break down some of the myths, share science-backed strategies, and answer some of the biggest questions about nutrition. No pressure, Helen.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and talk through some of these concepts that we're going to be discussing, particularly around myths and different strategies we can maybe help people implement into their diet to improve their overall quality of life and well-being.
In short, simplicity is best. Just keeping it simple, keeping it real, and not listening to everything you hear online.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. And I think if you get to the point where you're very happy that you've nailed that, then you can go on to worrying about some of these more detailed and, kind of more abstract thinking concepts.
One of the biggest things I see online at the moment is gut health. It's everywhere. Everywhere you look on Instagram, and it's just about your gut health, your mind, your body, the impact on that. How much do you see that as a trend at the moment?
Yeah, the gut. So while there are so many trends, I think it actually is something that's really well worthwhile and important for everyone to consider. The gut is really one of the most important things to consider when it comes to health, because we now know that the gut goes beyond just digesting and absorbing nutrients. And there's increasingly more information coming out and more interest being put into the gut microbiome. I'm not sure, are you familiar with the gut microbiome yourself?
Please let me know.
So the gut microbiome is basically a really complex community of trillions of microorganisms living in your gut. And the gut, so lots of people will consider the gut just to be kind of your stomach or your intestines, but the gut actually runs the whole way through your body. So from your mouth all the way down through your esophagus, your stomach, your intestines, all the way down. And we have bacteria living all the way through there, primarily in the large intestine. So that complex community of microorganisms and all of the different things they express can interact with essentially all of our other body systems. And we are learning so much more about that now, more than ever. And I think we have so much more to learn as well. So it's kind of endless. The amount of influence it has on the rest of our body.
One of those things you might look back on in 10 years and go, wow, why weren't we paying more attention to this?
Exactly, yeah.
And let's say as a just normal, everyday Joe So person, what's the best thing you can do to try and help your gut, or what's the benefits of that?
Yeah, so I would say the main things, and something that maybe sounds easier than it is making sure you're getting enough fibre in your diet. Fibre essentially is the part of carbohydrate foods that we cannot digest ourselves, but the gut microbiome feed off it. So it's basically their food. Mm-hmm. It's feeding all of those trillions of microorganisms. So we really need to make sure we're looking after them so that they can look after us. So fibre, I think in Ireland anyway, I know the average intake of a person when it comes to fibre is less than 20 grams a day. We should all be aiming for a minimum of 30 grams per day, which is achievable if you plan it out. But if you're not considering it, it's very difficult to achieve, not making sure you're including the right types of foods.
And what's the connection, let's say, between your mood, how you're feeling, like what's the science behind that? Yeah,
again, another area that's really a hot topic in research is the brain-gut axis. So that's basically this two-way communication highway that goes between your brain and your gut, and it's constantly working away. Your gut and your brain are speaking to each other all day long. And I think a nice way to think of this is when you consider the saying, like, I have a gut feeling about that. That's actually your brain and your gut communicating, or getting butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous. It's all of this reaction that actually is going on between your brain and your gut. But we are becoming more aware of the fact that your gut microbiome has a big role in mediating those responses. And particularly, there's a lot of research out saying that your gut microbiome can influence the neurotransmitters that are created or produced in your brain, and they're the chemical messengers that allow your nervous system to communicate all over your body.
Wow.
So in saying that, yes, it can influence the neurotransmitters. It might influence hormone production and things like that as well in your body. So that can have direct influences on your mood, your stress levels, your sleep, all of these things.
Yeah, bring me to the next question. Sleep. How important is it for that? We've all eaten something and like, oh, I didn't feel well after that, and didn't sleep well after that.
Exactly.
There is a direct link there.
Yeah, 100%. So with diet and sleep, there are a few different things. So first of all, if you eat something that doesn't agree with you before bedtime, or you have something you're far too full, you might actually just get indigestion before you sleep. And for people who have regular indigestion, they're better off waiting, really ideally about 4 hours, leaving a gap of 4 hours between eating and going to bed, because if they're lying down, they might be more prone to having, acid reflux. But aside from that, what your food and your habitual intakes can influence, like I say, hormone production and neurotransmitter production in your brain. So when your brain is not producing the right levels of some of these neurotransmitters, it may impact your sleep levels. And some of the more important ones there would be like serotonin, the happiness hormone.
Yeah.
I think up to 95% or 90% of that is produced in your gut.
Okay.
And that can have influence then on your sleep and your mood as well.
Probiotics, prebiotics. Again, see these words everywhere. What are they? How good are they for us? Where do we find them?
Yeah, so again, another kind of hot topic online are prebiotics and probiotics. So probiotics are the big one, I'd say, more commonly discussed online. And probiotics are live bacteria or microorganisms that are intended to confer a health benefit when consumed. So sources of probiotics, you can get them through supplements, which there are lots of different probiotic supplements. You could probably talk for hours about that. But also they can be found in certain foods. So fermented foods are a good source of probiotics, and that would include things like kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, and also live yogurt. Another one is, like I say, the supplements that you can get, but it's really important just to note that the type of probiotic you take should be matched to what you need.
Okay.
So some people will take a probiotic supplement thinking that, okay, I'm doing great, I'm taking an expensive supplement that should do well for me. But it should really be matched to your needs. So it's important to look into that, or, contact a healthcare professional about it. Prebiotics, on the other hand, are foods that feed your bacteria. They basically feed the friendly bacteria in the gut and allow them to thrive. Very common foods contain prebiotics, so things like garlic, onion, mushroom, artichoke, asparagus, oats, lots of different foods that you can include in your daily life and your diet.
Perfect. You mentioned something interesting there. Everyone's body is different. Everyone's gut is different.
Yeah.
I think obviously you worked in clinical environment before. You worked in St. James's, you worked in medical clinic over here. Have you done like tests on people on their gut, and how does that work, and what's the outcomes, and how do you create a plan for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you say, it's everyone is different, and people believe that the gut microbiome, so that community of bacteria and microorganisms living in your gut, is nearly as unique as a fingerprint. So everyone is very, very different, and we all have different needs. You mentioned, I worked in St. James's Hospital in Ireland, where I was working kind of with people who had very, very unique needs. And what was really important was that we were matching their plans to their needs in a different context of the gut microbiome, but the same thing. It's treating everyone as an individual. As you also mentioned, I worked in a clinical environment here in the UAE where we were running gut microbiome tests. So analysing the composition of individuals' gut microbiomes and seeing all these differences. Like you say, different people have different levels of bacteria. Some people have it's called dysbiosis, which is an imbalance in your gut microbiome. So you might have a huge overgrowth of one species of bacteria or other microorganisms, but that can be really harmful and manifest in very, unwanted ways. Gastrointestinal discomfort, or also things like skin issues or mood issues. So it's a really interesting, really emerging area of science, I would say.
How often have you gone through this with someone who say, listen, like I know for me, I probably know what foods I shouldn't eat, but still we're all human. We're like, if someone told me tomorrow you can't eat Maltesers, I'd be like, no, I'm okay. I'll take the poor gut.
Yeah.
How often do you like give people this advice and it just it's just really hard to get them to follow it.
Honestly, more often than not, I would say it's something people invest in going and having health tests done, no more than having a blood test.
Yeah.
And you get your results and you're told you should do this, and it's personalized advice. But implementing that is a whole other thing. And I can't go home with people and tell them exactly what to eat or do with their daily life. So it's trying to make it something that's very easily digestible, pardon the pun, but something that people can understand and implement in easy, small steps. You don't want to overcomplicate things. It might be literally introducing one new thing into your diet and avoiding that kind of restrictive way of thinking where you don't need to cut out your Maltesers. You know, we need to enjoy our food, but it's all about balance.
Of course. It is very tough, and you hit the nail. If it's not simple, people are not going to do it.
100%.
It is just absolutely like that.
Yeah.
For us on FITT Meals, let's say, I know you try and do a lot of gut health. For FITT Meals, I know when you're designing our meal plans, let's say, you do have gut health in your mind when you're designing them. I suppose you've come from a clinical background and now you're in like meal prep nutrition. What is the difference there, and how do you try and curate that menu?
Yeah, so I suppose in saying that and moving on from what we just said, I can't go home with people, but now we're in this position where myself and the team we work with, we are able to give people foods that should suit them. So it's more of a public health nutrition perspective to take on it, where we need to try and, suit our meals to a large crowd and
Absolutely.
a diverse range of people. So again, keeping things simple, but we need to be very conscious of the ingredients we're using and all of these things. So it might be worth walking through a typical way that we would get a menu or even a meal item onto the menu. So first of all, you have your idea generation. Could be something like a new meal that's going viral online that people want to try it. We want it on our menu to help people get it into their lives and make our menu diverse and enjoyable. So you have your idea generation. Then you need to think about your ingredients. So what ingredients would go into this that are actually healthy ingredients? So things like your prebiotics. So I know a lot of people don't like mushrooms and onions and things like that, but they do serve a purpose. Once you have that done, we will go through a situation where we make the recipe, test the recipe with the kitchen staff. Once we've tested the recipe, we'll make adjustments to the nutritional side of things to make sure that it is actually healthy, that we're not giving lots of saturated fats and unhealthy things, and that we are giving people a significant amount of fibre. We do that. We need to then, photograph the meal, make portioning and recipe cards. So in FITT Meals, everyone is very precise, and accuracy is one of the kind of things that I think we're really very conscious of. So people may not realise that in the kitchen we have people who are weighing out every single ingredient, and it might be down, it might say something like 27 grams of this. They will weigh it out to exactly 27 grams, which is so accurate and so important. But we just need to make sure that we have a good process in place where that's easy to follow for people, to ensure that we have that accuracy and consistency, really. Then once that happens, we'll put it up on our menu, put it up about 6 weeks in advance of people actually eating it, because we allow people to choose their meals for a period of 6 weeks in advance. So it's a long process, but a lot of thought goes into it, a lot of planning, and a lot of people are involved in it as well.
Yeah, I always get that. People are like, "Oh, I should put this on next week," and I'm like, "That you're about 3 months too late." Like, it is about a 12-week process to get a meal onto the menu.
Yeah.
And a big thing too, there's no point having it nutritious and healthy if it's not tasty. And like the amount of meals we've had to say no to because we can get it tasty, we can't get the nutrients right, we can't get the calories the way we want it to be.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important as well, just to know what meals to say no to as well as what meals to say yes to.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing where you as a nutritionist, you're working very closely with the chefs all the time to see, they have their ingredients that they know taste well in these meals. But then for me, I need to think of, the fat content, the carbohydrate content. Has it got protein in it? Has it got fibre? So it is that trade-off. And we want to get to the point where we have the sweet point, or the sweet spot that it tastes good and it's nutritious.
Yeah, absolutely. And even on the weighing part there, it still surprised me the amount of companies that still lump all the ingredients in together and just one big weighing, let's say pad thai with chicken or something.
Yeah.
Like we break that down into 7 or 8 different components because someone could be getting lots of chicken, someone could be getting no chicken.
Exactly.
It's just, I find it mad, the discrepancy here. So
Yeah.
it's good to, like you were saying, to have like 27 grams. That makes people think, wow, 27, that is a precise number. It's not 20, it's not 30,
No.
it's not 100, it's 27.
Yeah.
And it just keeps you focused on that, because what you write on the box is what has to be in the box.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like even down to our garnishing, you might see a sprinkle of Parmesan cheese on it. It's been weighed out. So it's really important that we allow people to realize that they can trust what we're giving them. But yeah, a lot of thought and a lot of effort goes into all of it. I think you're 100% correct in saying that there are situations where things just don't work. But we need to do our best to get what we want on the menu and in a way that will be healthy and that people aren't feeling sluggish after eating it, or, it's just very precise.
It's even funny sometimes with the customer, because I think last week we had one of the sheep pancakes and a customer was like, why have you given me a big portion and a sliver beside it? It was like, we need to give you the exact gram, so if we're 2 grams off, we're going to put that in there.
Exactly.
It looks a bit strange. You're like, what is this? But it just, you have to be so detailed on
100%. And that's the thing. We have a lot of people, a lot of customers who are using the likes of MyFitnessPal. And another thing that we do, like another part of that process, is every meal or every change to a meal needs to be reflected on MyFitnessPal. So we have the barcodes on our boxes that you can scan directly into MyFitnessPal. If I change one thing in a meal, that barcode needs to be changed. All of our labels need to be redone. But we have to do it. It's important. Just can't cut corners in these ways.
We do have customers that weigh out our meals, which is great. I love that. They're like, I weighed out your meal. It all looked great. I'm like, brilliant. Thank you. Please keep doing that.
Exactly. We love the commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. Brings me on, like we're talking about the calories and things like that. Another big topic for me definitely is like the calories versus nutrients density. A lot of people are very obsessed with what calories they get into their body. How obsessed should we be about the nutrients we're getting into our body?
Definitely. And I think there is a bit of a toxicity surrounding calories, for a long time. I like to think of it like you have money to spend. If you had 2,000 dirhams to spend, so that would be maybe the equivalent to an average person having 2,000 calories a day, you can go out and you can spend your money on all these little bits of junk, nothing that you'll ever get any use out of. It's worthless to you, but you can get a lot of it. That's like going out and eating food that's not nutrient dense. You can go out, you can buy 2,000 calories worth of chocolate and crisps. And
it's a dream.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, maybe some days. But you may not gain weight from having that, but you're getting nothing from it.
Yeah.
You're literally not giving your organs, your body, your brain anything it needs. Whereas you could go out and buy maybe less expensive things, but they're higher quality.
Yeah.
And that's like when you're eating, if you eat high quality foods, you're considering your healthy fats, your carbohydrates, your complex carbohydrates, and your lean sources of protein. You're going to come in maybe at the 2,000 calorie mark as well. Your weight won't change either way, but your body's getting it what it needs. So it's fueling yourself like you would put petrol in your car. You need to fuel your body.
And your gut will thank you.
Your gut will thank you, exactly.
It is crazy. And again, sometimes it's misinformation. I mean, we don't get it as much anymore, thankfully. But I remember when we first started, we get a lot of customers texting in going, have you 1,000 calorie a day meal plan? We're like, no. No. That just doesn't make sense. You were going to starve yourself.
Absolutely. I
have a 2-year-old that eats 1,000 calories before midday, so how are you going to survive on 1,000 calories?
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, they see things online, even these like what I eat in a day, some people post, and they are just not reflective of what anyone should be having, and nor do I think they're reflective of what people are having on a regular basis. It's very toxic. It's very damaging to people who are impressionable. And we can all be impressionable. We can all fall for marketing and things like that. It's really, really important that people are fueling their bodies. I would pretty confidently say nobody who's an adult should be on 1,000 calories per day. It's not going to give your heart the energy it needs to pump, your lungs to breathe, your brain to function. it's just inadequate.
Yeah, and it will not be pleasant for you either.
No.
You'll be starving.
Or the people around you, I'm
or
sure.
the people around you, true. How do you try and maximize the nutrition in each meal? Well, obviously we have to, obey the calorie count as well. It's what we put in our box. How do you get that balance right?
Yeah, so we try to look at kind of the distribution of the different macronutrients, so your proteins, your fats and your carbohydrates, and the quality of them. So there are some meals that are going to be naturally very high in protein. It's the type of meal they are. Some will be low in carbohydrate, like for example, some of our salads, they will be lower in carbohydrate and they might be a little bit higher in fat because they've got a dressing in them, that we're using some olive oil in or something like that. It's all about the balance. We need to look at balancing our meal, but also taking into consideration the actual type of meal you're having. And what we're offering together. We have a menu that we're putting out. We want to have a right balance between the different options that are available. But as you say, we are providing these meals to a different range of people. The main thing I would say is that we're looking at providing, appropriate amounts of each of the different macronutrients, but high quality. So that we're using brown pastas in a lot of cases. We're adding extra vegetables to get the fibre up. We use a lot of actual beans. And some people say, like, why do you put black beans in this dish? We want to give fibre. We want to feed your gut. It's just about adding in things that will ultimately benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, of course. And it's not something that you've the time to think about this every day. If you're busy and you're working hard and things like that, you're like, I need to put more beans in my dinner tonight,
exactly.
For my gut. So it's good to have that covered. Another thing on the calories, I'd say I see a lot of people sometimes eating like prepackaged ready meals, ultra processed foods, snacking again, just to get the food in their body, just to get the calories up. How is that impacting on our weight, our metabolism, our long-term health?
Yeah, so ultra processed foods, another kind of key word that's come up in mainly I'd say the last year. The main thing with ultra processed foods and highly processed foods is that you're not overly reliant on them. It's okay to eat these foods every so often. And to be honest, it's nearly impossible to have a diet that doesn't contain ultra processed foods at all, because an ultra processed food, some people may have heard the term, but what it means is the ingredient list essentially contains things that you wouldn't really find in your cupboard at home.
Yeah.
So things like preservatives or emulsifiers, any different types of additives. Sometimes they're needed in products that are actually quite healthy just to prolong the shelf life.
Yeah.
So, tinned beans or any tinned products would be considered an ultra processed food, but that's not to say they're bad for you. So it's about the balance of it. In terms of having like chocolate bars or protein bars and things like that, there's a time and a place for some of these products. If you're on the go, you need something, it's okay to have them. Just trying to choose the ones that are highest quality. In terms of their effect on the body, I think there's a lot we still don't know. And there's a lot of research going on around sweeteners and different additives, which are currently safe for use and definitely approved for use in Europe by the European Food Safety Authority. And lots of research has gone into it. But that's not to say that we won't find out things in the future that we don't know now. So I think just watch this space.
I think with ultra processed foods too, it is about planning ahead, as in terms it's so easy to snack. Sometimes you're like, you go somewhere, I'm going here today. If you can just spend 5 or 10 minutes in the morning just saying, right, where am I going today? What am I doing? I'm definitely going to get hungry, or I'm going to run out to the shop here. Just make something quick for yourself. Yeah. It can make all the difference.
Yeah, I think that actually is where a big benefit of meal prepping comes into it. Whether you're doing it at home or you're doing it through a company, it's the fact that it's planned out for you. It will help keep you on track no matter what, because it's there for you. You're not going to reach for something unhealthy. You have your plan, and it's really beneficial for a lot of people.
And it's decision fatigue as well. At the end of the day, the last thing you want to be doing is making decisions. So it's just like, this is there, it's done for me. Nutritionist has already gone through this.
Yeah.
Don't have to think about it. I just have to eat it and be happy.
And that's the thing. And variety too. I think on that note, I'm absolutely guilty of it. If I'm doing my shopping, I'm going to keep my shop pretty minimal, because I know I'll have this for 2 days in a row or whatever. But it can become very, very repetitive.
Absolutely.
And what's key, going back to the gut, is variety. Variety is key for your diet, because you want to be feeding all of the different types of species in your gut. They all need different things to survive on. So you need to feed them with variety. And it's very, very easy to have a low diversity in your diet if you're shopping for convenience rather than for health.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're prepping, you're probably cooking the same thing maybe
Exactly.
7 or 8 times. You're like, that will do me now for next week. And then
Yeah.
by, Friday, like, oh, I hate lasagna. I can't eat anymore. You made a good point there about just the variety of ingredients. How important is it to have a different variety of, let's say, plant foods and meats and things like that and carbohydrates?
Absolutely. So I think this is a nice thing to think of, and it's a good way to remember it. There's kind of a rule that I call the 30-30 rule. I don't think I coined that, but so like I mentioned, 30 grams of fibre per day should be the goal for fibre. But also we should be aiming to have 30 or more different plant-based foods in our diet per week. That is pretty hard to achieve unless you're planning. And that's not to say that you need to have completely different things. Like if you have a green apple and a red apple, that would be considered 2. But that's where putting in these little ingredients into our meals really does make the difference. So, if you have a meal that has 8 components, a lot of these will be plant-based components. So that will be checking off a lot of those different items that you need to include in your week. So yeah, really, really important.
Also the cost of it. If you have to go to the supermarket and try and pick out 30 different varieties of vegetables and all those things, you'll have a big cost at the end of it.
Definitely, particularly here in the UAE, I think.
Absolutely. Truth or false? You're going to test me on some nutrition facts.
Yes.
Hopefully you don't make a fool out of me.
Truth or false, or I might just go with some questions as well.
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I would say, speaking of the gut, how long do you think the human gut is? You can say it in like feet.
How long? Oh God. If we laid it out on the table.
If we laid it out.
Would it fit on the table?
It wouldn't fit on the table.
I am going to say 4 meters.
In foot, I know.
In foot, 12 foot?
About double.
Really?
So
24?
Between 22 to 30 feet long is kind of the average adult gut length, which is unbelievable because it's sitting inside our bodies. And this is why we need to make sure we're not, not thinking about it, because it's a huge organ or, set of organs. We need to look after them. Takes up a huge proportion of our body.
God, I thought I overshot it there. It was like 24 feet. Wow. That is, that's hard to imagine, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
So you think the size of that, if you're not looking after that,
exactly,
it's going to hurt you.
Yeah. And that's it. We need to optimize every part of it to make sure we're getting the most of out of the food we're eating.
Absolutely.
Another one, on the same tone, how much gastric juices do you think are produced in your stomach on a daily basis?
My one individually or?
Varies from person to person.
How many gastric juices? Again, I'm shooting in the dark here. I'm going to say 10.
10. In terms of volume.
Volume. As in litres?
Litres.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant types.
Sorry, I should have specified.
At least people know this wasn't scripted now. I got the question completely wrong. 2 litres.
Close. Again, around half. So up to 4 litres in the day. So again, huge amount of action. Created by us. Very acidic. It would burn your skin if it was on your skin. 4 litres. So again, it's just showing how active your stomach is, your gut is. It's constantly processing things.
Wow. So again, if we're eating something that's poor for our gut, that's going to produce pretty poor 4 litres of...
Yeah, I mean, we have to look after ourselves from within.
Yeah.
And I think I'll go one more for you. In terms of gut health issues, what percentage of men and female do you think have symptoms of a gut health issue?
Is it similar between men and women?
Quite similar. Women are a bit higher.
Okay. I'm going to go 30%.
So men are about 40% and females are 50%, just shy of 50%, which is huge.
What would that be?
It could be down to problems with like bowel habits, bloating, dyspepsia, which is like indigestion or heartburn, a range of different things that people, because it's so common, consider it normal. But it shouldn't be normal. I think that's the huge thing that we need to focus on. It does not have to be normal to feel bloated all the time after when you're experiencing discomfort with it. A small amount of bloating can be normal, but when it's causing discomfort or it's affecting your day-to-day life, it shouldn't be happening.
But if you know no different, you probably don't realize you have this.
Exactly.
This symptom.
And half of your friends might have it, half of your family have it, so you think it's normal. But it's really...
And probably if you're eating in the same family network, you're eating probably the same things.
Exactly.
So everyone feels like this.
Yeah. And
it's all good.
And exactly. That's the thing. We need to make sure we're not accepting it as normal, because it doesn't need to be normal.
So have you ever had a patient come in who didn't really realize they had such an issue and then made a difference? Yeah,
absolutely. Like patients, and honestly, friends, family, people who come up, I know colleagues, people will often say to me, they hear, "Oh, you're a dietitian. I've had bloating for years. I can't remember the last time I didn't feel bloated." And honestly, they'll just say, say it in passing. They'll never have sought advice on it or anything like that. But to be honest, a lot of it is down to basics. Like we opened this with, it's getting back to the basics.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of people who say it to me, they don't have a regular meal pattern. They're not thinking of what they're eating. They're skipping meals. So it's just really about education as well. Educating people that they don't need to feel that way, and there are simple ways to help fix and prevent it.
How long, I know that's probably very hard, everyone's different, but how long on average would it take for you to see serious differences if you started looking after your gut, let's say, if there was an issue? I
think, as you say, everyone is very different, but there is research to say that within about 3 days of changing your diet, you can see changes in your gut microbiome. Again, it's a really emerging area of science, so we don't know the ins and outs of it yet, but your gut is very reactive. It can improve very, very quickly. Similarly, it can worsen quickly as well. If you take antibiotics or something like that, it can wipe out the good bacteria as well. You'll notice pretty bad results in response to that. But it can change within a matter of days.
I suppose no different than if you eat a lot of crap, let's say, you start feeling like crap. So it's nearly, I won't say instantaneous, but you can
very, very
you can
reactive.
really get it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Okay, we're coming near the end. We have a FITT Life lesson. What would be the final piece of advice or key takeaway you'd like someone to take from this chat?
Yeah, I think because we've spoken so much about the gut, the main thing I would say, if people could take on that 30-30 rule or 30-30 recommendation, aim for your 30 grams of fibre per day and your 30 or more different plant-based foods per week, that should really have significant benefits, not only in your gut in terms of how you're feeling, but also how your gut is interacting with the rest of your body. So it can manifest in many, many different ways. So I think people will benefit from that regardless of whether or not they're experiencing gut health issues, because it has so many knock-on effects.
That's brilliant. Helen, thank you so much. Really enjoyed that chat.
Likewise.
Helen is available for all things nutrition on the FITT Meals Instagram. Thank you for tuning in to FITT Life. Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow our guests on social media for more fitness insights. Helen, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.